I've been looking forward to doing this episode since we decided to start the Who Is This podcast. Lee Patterson is a longtime resident of the Gila Valley, and most people in town will recognize his voice anywhere. Lee has been doing radio and sportscasting for many years and truly loves what he does. It was fun hearing his story about how he got into the business and all the differences in the industry from when he first started and what it's like now. We talk all things sports, from the Gila Valley's history and reputation of having championship teams and athletes to the growing popularity of disc golf. We also discuss the upcoming football season for our local schools. I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. All right, well, welcome Lee Patterson to the Who Is This podcast.
Thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you, man. You are as far as radio and podcasts, you've got to be the most recognized voice in the Gila Valley.
I don't know. I've never thought about it.
Right up, fun every day. Yeah,
no, I have not.
You and Reed and David, obviously. You're the three big ones.
I mean, we're the three in town that talk for a living.
Yeah, so you're the three big radio people in town.
If you've listened to the radio, there's a good chance that you've heard Lee.
There's a song about being famous in a small town. It fits.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, just close your eyes and you're about to be serenaded.
This podcast is best viewed with your eyes closed.
Yeah. So cool. How's it going, man?
Good. Yeah. Doing good. How about you guys?
We're doing good. We're having a lot of fun with this thing.
Yeah.
It's been a learning experience, and I feel like each episode we're getting a little bit better, starting to figure some sound stuff out. I was talking to Courtney on Spotify. The last episode we did with Zaylee sounded great. The sound was a lot better, but we still need to figure it out with the YouTube. So still working on that.
And I think that people don't realize, you guys are finding it out too, that the time commitment it's not just the 30, 40, 60 minutes
right.
that people see the finished product of.
Yeah.
It's all the behind the scenes editing, and it's the same in radio too. People hear us on the air for an hour or whatever, but there's so much more that goes into it.
Well, yeah, for you, it's a full-time job.
Yeah. Just for football season, for example, my week starts on Tuesdays getting ready. Sometimes Monday, the first week of the season, it starts Monday because nobody has a roster ready the first week of the season.
Right.
And I like to get a roster by Wednesday so I can start learning some names, writing some notes. And so, but yeah, I'll do that and then interview coaches. And then
I always enjoy the preseason thing you do with each of the team. You kind of give a history of them, where they're at.
Yeah.
I always look forward to that every year.
Yeah, and that's the schedules just got posted this week. I just posted them on my social medias this week sometime. And so that's coming soon. It's the first game's August 23rd, but we'll definitely be in it before then.
So you're busy. When does your busy season end as far as high school sports and all of that? Because you don't do a lot
after state basketball.
I was gonna say, you don't do a lot for baseball and stuff. So after state basketball, that's what, January?
Yeah, it's been closer to the end of February lately. So the AIA's changed it to February Frenzy. So everything is in February, and because they're trying to get back to having everybody play at the same venue for the state championships, the finals are a little bit later, which I'm okay with. I think when I first started in 2000, everybody played at America West Arena on that championship Saturday, 1A through 6A boys and girls. Right? It wasn't 6A. I think it was only 5A then. 1A through 5A boys and girls played, and it was the cheapest, greatest ticket in sports. You can get there early and stay till late.
Well, and how cool for those athletes getting to say they played at America West Arena.
Arizona's Mecca for basketball.
Yeah.
No, it was. I really enjoyed. Although the venue in Prescott is cool. Like when you get there, it's fine, but it's the getting there. For those of us out here, there's no quick way to get there.
Well, and it's not like it's cheap for the schools.
No.
No,
it's expensive to get there, but when you're there, you appreciate being there. It's a professional venue and it's good for basketball, but it feels like it's a long way.
Yeah. Well, and in the middle, in winter time, was that last year?
It was 2 or 3 seasons ago when
that happened. Yeah.
It was that blizzard in Arizona and nobody can get anywhere. Luckily, the game we had scheduled was Thatcher versus Scottsdale Christian. Thatcher got over the mountain before they shut it down. but they couldn't get up the mountain. So Thatcher and Scottsdale Christian played at Sunny Slope High School that night and had to hire a kid from ASU to do the game because we couldn't get there.
Oh, wow.
And that kid now is doing NAU basketball with Mitch Stroman. So he's in the program up there, which luckily being in this business long enough, you've got, this is a term you guys might not understand, Rolodex of
That's like, oh, that's Rolex.
That's Rolex. No, see, back in the old days, you used to flip through names and numbers. But luckily you get, you have a nice circle of people that you've met over the years, and, you call them up and say, I need a guy.
Yeah.
And luckily, and I think that time it was Brad Sussman, who used to be on Channel 3 years and years ago, and now does a ton of AV stuff in the sports world still, high school and college. And he said, I got a guy. And
That's awesome.
and then we did that. So yeah, it's sometimes it's crazy, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not.
I do think that'd be cool if they went back to. So did you say they're discussing that?
No, well, now they're playing at the Madhouse on McDowell, which for people that remember the Suns playing down there, it's pretty cool. I don't think any of the players playing now even understand what it is. I've probably never been to the state fair there,
Right.
but at one point that was the place. It's needs some help, but it's a cool environment. I mean, it's a little bit easier to get to than up north, and holds a lot more people, and the parking is a lot better. But the venue is the oldest one, so it's fine. I mean, but
That's not the Coliseum.
it is the
Oh,
Coliseum.
yeah.
Yeah. So they're playing every game at all the state championships are down at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
So,
starting.
no, the last couple of years they have been.
Oh, okay. I thought they
So-
were still doing it the press pass.
No, they're playing the early rounds up there, and then everybody comes back down
Gotcha.
to Phoenix and plays in the championship. So
I remember when state wrestling was always in the Coliseum. All my older brothers wrestled. And then when I got into high school, they changed it to the Glendale Arena where the Coyotes
yeah, the Coyotes were out there at that point, which is a cool venue too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big
It
venue.
was just freezing cold.
Wrestling on the ice.
Cold.
Yeah,
The mats were rock hard.
they couldn't figure out why everybody had bloody noses.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Because I think they just put like some kind of covering over the ice and then the mats right.
it really, and I don't know what it's made out of.
Yeah.
Water. No, not the ice. I'm gonna throw something at you. The mat that they put down, it's the same thing they put down underneath the court too. So when it is crazy how cold it is, because the first time I broadcast from there, my feet like froze.
Yeah.
It was the craziest thing ever. But I couldn't imagine wrestling in a singlet on top of it.
Yeah.
No thanks.
I couldn't imagine wrestling.
Okay.
Anywhere.
Shut up.
Davis, I'm sure you look great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lee, how long have you been doing radio or sports? Tell us where it all started. Was this always your plan? How did you get to here?
It's a crazy story. My first day at the radio station was February 20th, 2000.
Okay.
I answered an ad from the radio for part-time help in the office. I was a broke college kid going to Eastern, and I was like, hey, I could use some money.
So you're going to Eastern
So
at the time.
I was going to Eastern at the time, studying criminal justice.
Playing baseball, right?
I did not play. I got hurt before
Gotcha. Okay.
when I got there. So I didn't end up playing.
Okay.
So I was studying criminal justice, and that was going to be my career. And then I answered that ad. It was just office help, no on air anything. Just we need some help in the office.
Mhm.
Well, I go to the office, and back then there was no digital storage, so everything was physical storage. So there was stacks and stacks of.
You're really dating your.
I'm old, man. I was 19 years old at the time, so I get, and so they needed somebody. Really, the job was to file all this paperwork they need to file. So I was like, okay. I mean, I know my ABCs. I can do this, and so I filed. And it only took me, I don't know, a week or two. There was a lot, but we got it done, and then they were like, okay, you filed well, you can stay. Sweet. And then about 3.5 months later, the business manager that I was working under took another job, left. And the then station manager came to me and said, hey, you know the software, you know the billing, the U1.
How long have you been there?
3.5 months, maybe part-time, very, very part-time. And they asked me if I wanted to take over as the office manager. And at that time, the office manager, entered broadcast orders into the system, scheduled the commercials on the air, took payments, printed invoicing. I mean, I'm an office manager job.
Yeah.
I was like, well, if you let me finish school and do that, yeah, I'll do that. What you let me finish? I had a full load still at the school. I was still taking a full schedule, and so they said, yeah, go for it. And so I did that, finished school, and kept going in the office. And then the August of '01, they asked me if I wanted to tag along with Ron Keith, who was doing sports then. And I was like, yeah, I could say yes fast enough.
Yeah.
And so, and I knew nothing about it. Didn't study broadcasting. I mean, I knew sports, played sports, watched sports.
Right.
And so I tagged along with him for probably 2 years with no pay, just learning, just like, and I had the time of my life. We went everywhere in his little turquoise S10, I think. We went to all kinds of games from all kinds of places. And so that's when sports started.
Okay.
But then I was in the office for probably 6 or 7 years doing that.
So at what point at what point did you say nix the criminal justice? Like, or were you still going?
No, I wasn't. I stopped going to school because I had this full-time job, and I was like, oh, they're letting me do sports.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna stick with this.
Okay.
And so I started sports that year. I started for 2 years. I followed along, and then for 6 or 7 years, I was in the office as the office manager. And then one of the sales ladies left, and they said, "We really think you should move into sales." New general manager now, and I was like, I'm okay. You know, the word commission really scared me.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I don't think so. I like it here. Come back again. I really think you should. That's the next step. You really need to move into sales. And I was like, oh, okay. That was 18 years ago. Still doing that full time. But then the sports gig just turned into. Then Ron eventually was promoted up at his job and was off the air, and I took over probably 2 full seasons of football and basketball before I took over, and then just started rolling with that. That turned it into a weekly sports show. That's turned into.
What year did you take over?
My guess would be '03.
Okay.
The August of '03
when you you were doing the games.
Yeah, when I was doing the games myself. Yeah, but don't go back and listen to them. They were terrible. They were terrible. I still had no schooling. It was on the job training is what it was. So that's what I did. And now this will be year, whatever that is. Year 25 at the station.
Yeah.
Starts in February.
Wow.
So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I think that's what honestly make the best sportscasters to listen to are the ones that played sports, and it's you want to feel like you're just talking sports with them. That's the one that I enjoy listening to. That it's
there's some thing. And over the years, obviously, I've learned more. I've paid more attention. I started watching and listening differently to sports than I would just for entertainment. Like I was using it to learn. Like, oh, I like the way he said that, or oh, that word works good there. I'm going to try to figure out how to use that. And you just listen and watch differently. And I don't, it's not a learned thing, but my ability to remember numbers and names really helps. And my wife, who has now been helping me for the last probably 10 years, doing stats and stuff. She's like, I don't know how you do it. And I'm like, I can't tell you how I do it either. Like, I don't, like, it's not.
Some people just have that gift.
Yeah.
We were talking to Michael Romney here a few weeks ago, and he started talking about past games and
he remembers them like
and
that.
that was like my specific
play.
Yeah. I just know.
Well, and I can do, so I've seen every big game since 2000.
Right.
And I can remember plays and players and outcomes, but I can't remember what year it was. Like, I'll remember who was on the team. Like, I'll remember who made the plays, but I can't say, oh, that was 2007.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Gotcha.
And at one point we counted how many games it was, and I've not since updated that, but
how many like football games?
Yeah. If you think about it, back then it was 2 games a week because Eastern was playing on Saturdays.
Oh yeah.
So it was 2 games a week for probably 20 years for just football.
Davis, what's the number?
Yeah, you guys are, isn't this a numbers place? Can't you guys come out with numbers? But then basketball, we were doing 3 games a week, two college and 1 EA game a week, and that's been for 25 years. So we've seen a lot of games.
Been busy.
So you've got the sports side, your whole sports show and all that, and then you still got your sales job with the radio. Is that hard doing both of those?
No, it ties into each other. I mean, I sell my own sponsors for sports. I mean, the whole staff does, but when you're the one doing it, you take the lion's share of the responsibility of making sure it happens. Because obviously there's cost involved in doing these broadcasts, travel and people in the studio. And, so we sell sponsorships. And so I take the lead on that a lot, but we've got 3 salespeople at the station who also sell. So I make our schedules. I make the sports schedules of what games we're going to do, and I get it out to them, and then they go out and pitch sponsors as the season gets closer. And as I start doing my preview stuff, that's when I'll start making my schedule, because I printed the schedules this week, and because I wanted to look at them, and I've made in a little scratch note of which games I think I want to do every week. But then I'll go talk to the coaches and see because what I'm trying to do is pick the best game that week. I'm not trying to pick a game that a local team's going to win.
Right.
I'm trying to pick the game that's going to be the best game.
Yeah.
Because
that's one of the questions I wanted.
It's unlike people that are listening to the game who are listening for entertainment. We're on the business side of it, where we want to make sure there's enough listeners the whole game.
Yeah.
To tell the sponsors that we have this many listeners the whole game. So that, I mean, it's a big circle. It's, business.
Yeah.
And so, if it's a 60-0 win for a local team, that's not a good night. It's not a good night. It's not a good night for us. And it sounds bad, but if a local team loses on the last play of the game, it's a better game than if a team wins 60-0. For the broadcast.
Makes sense. 100%. Obviously, you want us to win it on the last play.
Correct. And I'm always in favor of the local teams winning, but for the business side of things, I want it to be close in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So that's and so we'll go. So like I said, I'll make a preliminary schedule, and then I'll go talk to the coaches and make sure I'm not missing anything. Going, okay, here's my options this week. I want to do you get, and I try to spread it out. We get sponsors from it for every team, and we cover 3 teams.
Right.
So it's in some of the smaller markets, you got 1 team, so it's easy to know what your schedule is going to be. You're going to go everywhere they're going to go. So I try to keep it as even as possible. And
people don't understand. Well, they should understand this is a business, because I've seen things on Facebook of, why don't you cover this game or this school more? I'm not going to say any specific schools or anything.
Right. Because every year it's the same. Over the years it's been every school.
Why don't you cover these games? Because it's not a fair thing. It's not like the schools are paying you to do it.
Exactly.
You're trying to generate business, and that comes with listeners, and some of your smaller schools just aren't going to have as much listeners.
Yeah, we try. I mean, like, for example, last year we went to Duncan and did Fort Thomas Duncan because they moved it to a Thursday night. I was available. Yeah. Their ADs called and said, "Hey, it would be nice if you were able to work this out." So we got to some clients, and we're able to talk to a couple in Duncan and a couple down here, and we were able to get the game on the air. I mean, and that's the nice part about a small station like we have. We're able to do that. We can make those decisions, and you just go, all right, if we can get enough sponsors to make it worth it, we'll go do that game. So, and we probably had more positive comments from that game than we did any other game last year, because the teams were 1 or 2 and 7 or 8 or 9, and they weren't going to have any playoff games. So, but that game, it was a big game for them.
And because it was exciting for all those fans, because it's not common for those games to be on the air. So they were excited for this.
100%.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's, speaking of small town benefits, I know, don't you, a lot of times, I think it's cool that the schools, if they're like on an away trip, they'll let you ride with the team to,
there's been a lot of that. Yeah. They'll, and that comes with relationships and understanding the value of road games as as when I was younger, I wanted to do every game. I was like Jones and, we want to go to Yuma and back on a Wednesday night to do a basketball game. Let's go.
Yeah.
As you get older, and riding a bus to Yuma and back on a Wednesday night doesn't sound as fun, and it's not anymore to do that, just sit for that long. So, and the technology has caught up where these schools, so back when I first started, some of these schools didn't have any technology. There was two of us in the league, especially the JUCO league, that were doing full-time play-by-play. So the only time those teams got on is if one of us was there. It was us or Arizona Western. Those were the only two schools in the league doing broadcasts. So if I was going to go to Phoenix College on a Wednesday night, that was they wanted us there because they knew that they were going to be broadcast streamed on, and so it gave the whole league thing. But it's been nice that it's been nice to be able to do that, because if you have to add all the travel into a game on a Friday night, like last year, our first game was at Payson and it was with Safford. We may have ended up doing a home game if we couldn't get. I mean, if it's there's that fine line of on the business side of, can we make? Is it worth? Yeah, why? Right. I mean, and then that's a business decision that everybody makes in their day-to-day business lives. I mean, if you're going to do that, so. Luckily that comes into play and they're able to do that. And all the teams have made that available for us. So it's been good that way. I don't know that we could have covered as many games as we have over the years without having that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other expense that you've got, the gas and all that. So,
and the time away from getting other stuff done,
And I'm sure that's not super common.
No, I don't think it is. I think if it's a small school town, it's probably super common, but to be able to, and that's something that, I've worked on over my career, is the relationships with the multiple athletic directors and head coaches over the years. And it's as important a part of it as the broadcast part of it too.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have those relationships, things just are easier to do.
Yeah. The more you work with, so I say this in lending all the time, and different real estate agents that we work with, and it's just the more you work with someone, the more you learn how they work, the smoother the process goes, and it makes everybody's life easier.
Well, and there's in our case, when we're the one that, I mean, the game can happen if I don't go. I'm not a necessity on the road game. That game's going to happen. So there's a phrase that I like is, beggars can't be choosers. If you're riding in the middle seat in the back of a Suburban. Okay. You can't, we're leaving this time. I'm there early, you just can't be
right.
It can't be
for the ride.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. 100%.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, are you, when you're going to the games, especially the away games, are you also streaming them, or are you just broadcasting them?
Yeah, so we've been streaming since it was a thing here. Like way back in the day, we used a company called Southwest Sports Network, who I'm not even sure is around, and it was they would stream our games. The audio, so the technology upgrades from back when I started. So when I first started, we were broadcasting over regular phone line. Wow. I would carry, like, it's not a hose reel, but
that's three. That's three things you've said.
A cable, like a cable reel, like one of those big wheels, like 1,500 feet of phone line, and you would have to call ahead to the phone company to get a phone line installed in the press box if they didn't have one. Some crazy stories about, I was at Miami High School one time, and they had one in the press box, but the Globe station was the home station, so they got to use the one in the box. And they told me that, and I knew that coming in. So I bring as much line as I've got. And I'm on top of the press box. And you know how at Miami High School, where it's up against the rocks, like it's built into the side of the mountain. And so I'm up on the press box, and I've run every inch of cable I've got through the trees in the parking lot into the principal's office back in the office. And then I'm like, sweet, that's all again, beggars can't be choosers. I'm going to get back out there, and I'm 8 feet from being able to see over the press box. So we broadcast it, and if anything came to the near sidelines, headset off, look over, put it back on, and complete the play. So went from that to the early cell phones, which we called a bag phone, and we carried it in a small toolbox. That's how big cell phones were. Whereas they were meant to be mounted in like farm vehicles is usually where they were at, like farm trucks. That worked really well. We weren't tied to a location that they had a plug, so we could broadcast anywhere. Mm-hmm. Again, the technology was not great. The audio was, for the time, was fine, was great. But you go back and listen to him, and you're like, was he in a tin can? Yeah. So then we did that, and now we broadcast off of a cell phone. That's literally through all of our gear. I mean, obviously, I go into a mixer that gives me 12 channels, and I can send a feed to the streaming company and vice versa. And but it's all through a cell phone. Our phones back at the station are digital, so it sounds like you're in a studio when you're broadcasting that.
Which makes your life a whole lot easier.
In our setup, so I literally could take my rolling bag that I've got, that's my sports bag, and could broadcast from anywhere. I don't need power to broadcast anymore. Nope. I mean, for the best setup, we need power, but I could broadcast from anywhere. Yeah.
No more climbing through trees.
No, none of that. And the guys before me who used to broadcast for KATO have even crazier stories about that. There was one time in Douglas where they ran it over train tracks, and a train came through in the middle of the game and cut the line, and the broadcast was over. And one time in Duncan, they tied it to a receiver of this at a house next to the stadium, to then went off of an antenna, then bounced it back. I'm just like, I am grateful for the technology that we have now. But yeah, so it's super simple. But yes, to answer your question, we stream. So any live game that I'm doing on KATO is streamed on GilaValleyCentral.net, and also Network1Sports.com. That's our streaming partners.
So speaking of the technology advancing, I mean, it's advanced so much now so when I was in high school, we didn't have any type, in the regular games, we didn't have any type of a video or anything like that. But booster clubs now are starting to video their own games and have their own announcers. Is that creating competition for you, or
no? We're gonna do 10 or 12 games a year. There's room for us, like for right now. So when we go to Safford High School, they have a film department that are doing their games, and they take our feed. So we work together. So when I go to Safford, so they're doing the video part. And then I literally send them a feed, and so our radio broadcast is going over their live video.
That's awesome.
And then when we've done the same at Thatcher before, but sometimes Thatcher has their own crew. But luckily at Eastern Arizona College, where they play their home games, there's enough room up in that press box that we make it work. So and I always, that also, knowing a school has a game covered allows us to change our schedule if we need to. Like, we can go, okay, there you got, this one's going to be out there. Cause I feel the obligation to do that, that part of the job is to let everybody else know about what we've got here, players and athletes going on. So if something else has got it taken care of, so out of town people can see it, we can go to another one that maybe not have that same coverage and be able to provide that. So
gotcha.
So we work together pretty good with that.
That's awesome.
So you've been doing it a while now.
Couple days.
I think this pointed out.
He's trying to make everybody know that I'm old. Yes.
Yeah. What are there any like highlights that you can think of?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, there's games. I mean, there's good and bad highlights. One of the coolest thing was in 2008 when we went to Mexico and broadcast an Eastern Arizona College bowl game. Eastern football played in the only international bowl game still to this day.
Yeah.
Down in Chihuahua, Mexico. We went down there, so we did an international broadcast. My first, I don't think we'd broadcast, maybe my only. I don't think we've done another international broadcast. We did 38-9.
Who did they play?
a team of all-stars from Mexico.
From Mexico, right? Yeah, I remember that.
And that was a wild scene. We played in Estadio Azteca. It's a soccer stadium.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't as steep as the American stadiums. So I'm in the press box, but I feel like I'm looking almost straight up. Yeah, it's out instead of up. And it was nuts. They had a band playing it past the goalpost all night. They had stilt walkers blowing fire, and it was a party. It was like a soccer match. I mean, that's an international soccer match. It was so that was really neat. I mean, we had dinner with the governor of Chihuahua while we were down there. It was a cool experience. I mean, that's one that I'm like, yeah. Some of the road trips are crazy, driving to Rick's College and back, which is BYU Idaho now. They were in the league at one time. Dixie State College, which is now Utah Tech, I think is what they're called, up in St. George. Those were fun. I saw some great guys and some players at the JUCO level in all sports. But some of the other games was, Thatcher football's three-peat when the goal line stand is still high up on my list of things I'm glad I got to see live, and also felt like the call I made was was equal to as good of the play that it was.
Yeah.
State championship. I mean, I've got friends that do this in other states for as long as I have, and they've never called a state championship game. I feel like every year I'm looking. No, the Gila Valley's athletics and sports is much better than they are above average for this size of area. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we get the chance to call a state championship game every year in one sport or another. Yeah. I feel like it's just crazy.
That would be an interesting thing to go and see. When was the last time that a school in the Gila Valley didn't make a state championship game in one sport?
At least once. No, there's some, well, if you think about some of the streaks that have been here, you got Thatcher football 3 in a row. Back in the day, you got Pima football when they were 1A was dominant. They were in it every year. You've had Safford Wrestling won it years in a row. And before that, BB Andrews and his track team won countless number of state championships. I actually, when we first started working with Gila Valley Central, that was one of my first things I dove into, was how many state championships every school has won. And that was 2018. I should probably go back and revisit that, because there's been tons since. But if you think it was just between Safford and Thatcher, because I remember these numbers, because I had somebody just ask me to update those two. Safford's got 93 state championships in the history of their school.
Between the three major sports?
Between every sport.
Every sport, okay.
And Thatcher has 77.
98 and 77?
Yes. That's
ton.
So you're really gonna have a hard time finding.
Yeah. Well, and then Pima has.
Now, is that state championship appearances or wins?
No, that's wins.
That's insane.
I'm sure that the appearances, it's got to be double that. Yeah. It really has to be. I mean, they're around all the Gila Valley Athletics is around all the time. Well, if you think about at Safford, Norma Bellamy, who coached volleyball there, won 21 state championships
with Safford.
I didn't know that. She won 532 games and only lost 20 in her entire career. So
now, what years were that? I mean,
so when I went back to look, her first championship was in 68, but her last championship was probably late 80s.
Wow.
Like that's a lot. I mean, but then the traditions, like we said, like with wrestling and with track. And then if there was a point, girls basketball at Thatcher won 58 games in a row under Dave Hinson.
Yeah.
So I was there the night Duncan beat him at Thatcher. We broadcast that game, and I think the final score was like 18-14, because Duncan would bring the ball across midcourt and just stall, which was a terrible broadcast, but was a great strategy. And I think so. there's
14.
and it may have been. I mean, don't officially quote me on that.
Right.
It was a very low scoring game. So I mean, then you
Frustrating as a coach.
Frustrating as a human being.
but when you think about it as a sports fan, it's a great strategy. I mean, if they can't score because they don't have the ball.
I feel like so baseball, I'm a baseball fan.
So am I.
I love to see a pitcher's duel, right? That I enjoy that type of game. Great defense, 1-0 win. That's a good game.
Right.
Basketball's a different sport.
No, I want to see offense. I want to see. At one point in my career, when there was a basketball coach at a local school, I won't say a name, but I told them, I'm not doing your games unless you score radio points the nights I'm there.
Yeah.
Because it was they were winning ball games, but they were winning 32-28 type stuff, which is the object of the night. I understand that. But I was like, yeah, I'm gonna find somewhere else to go if you're not scoring right.
Makes sense. So we're not telling you to change your coaching strategy. Keep winning games. That's great. I'm gonna put a more exciting one over here. Yeah.
So it's been back to your question. There's been all kinds of different things, highlights of going to Mexico, tons of state championship opportunities, and the people and players. I was, like when for a short time I coached baseball at Thatcher, and
I think that was
you were
their junior.
Yeah, you were in school at the time, I think. Again, it makes me feel old. But when we would go out of town and we were on the old Eagle bus, we would pull up to the hometown buffet in Mesa, and the people would ask, "Who'd you guys beat today?" It wasn't who'd you play. It was who'd you beat today. Because anytime people outside of this area see Safford, Thatcher, Pima in their newspaper or on their TV, they're winning state championships.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
It is cool. Makes you proud.
No, it's definitely, I ran into, you watch baseball and you probably know her because you worked for the Diamondbacks for a short time. I ran into Jody Jackson, at an awards banquet this last football season. Her son is a quarterback that's going to Western New Mexico. He was a quarterback the last couple of years and he was at an awards ceremony, and I was introduced to her and they said, Lee's the radio guy in Safford Thatcher. And she's like, I finally went through there when we were taking our son to Silver City. I've heard about it all these years. I thought it was a made up place. True story. She's like, she's heard about it. She's in the sports world and you see and hear things. And she's like, yeah, I thought it was a mythical place that you only hear about. And she's all, I finally drove through it.
So as a big sports person, and we've been talking about all these championships that the Gila Valley has, that Thatcher has. I mentioned I'm a big baseball fan. Put those two together. Thatcher has never won a state baseball championship. Why? Why is that? What do we need to do? Because, man, I really want Thatcher to get a state championship, and I don't know.
And there's been they've had some good teams.
That's really good teams.
I don't know. There's part of me that think that everybody plays three sport athletes at Thatcher. I mean, your best players are all three sport athletes. And by the time I don't care that you're 18 years old or 16 years old, by the time May comes around to go to the state tournament, you've been playing since July.
Yeah. And
in football.
And on that point, I remember baseball season being the fun sport.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
because there was no expectations. There was no, we've won 10 or 12 state basketball championships or football championships.
Baseball was, let's go have a good time, throw the ball around. And now I'll give Ramon Morales credit. He did a really good job with our teams of being structured and making sure we weren't just messing around all the time. And our junior year, we had a super solid team. We would have had we had a lot of returning our senior year, and Ramon retired, and we were all super ticked at him for doing that.
It's similar to my high school. So my junior year, we lost in the state championship game to Phoenix Christian.
By the way, where are you from?
Elfrida.
Yeah.
Valley Union High School, the Blue Devils. So we went up to 2A my junior year in 98. We had been 1A. And our first year, we went to the state championship game in baseball against Phoenix Christian and got beat. We graduated one kid from that year and we didn't qualify for the state playoffs the next year.
Really?
So
Same coach and everything?
Yeah, same coach and everything. We thought we were going back. And it's funny, it was Thatcher that knocked us out. So we were in the 2A East at the time.
What year was that?
99. So the field was where the playground is now at the elementary school over across the highway. That's where we played at. Again, old.
Yeah.
I know. But they started a left-handed freshman that day named Tyrell Adjaman, and we couldn't beat them. And they beat us 6-4, and they got the last spot, and we didn't go.
Mm.
So
that doesn't date you too much, because I remember when they moved over to that field.
yeah,
Because didn't they used to play high school games at the gravel pits out by the cemetery?
that was before me. If they did,
I'm pretty
when
sure
I was playing against Thatcher, those games were over there by the elementary school or the middle school.
Yeah, I remember those. They had some super janky metal buildings for bathrooms. I forgot those fields were over there.
Yeah, and every day the scoreboard was on like a trailer that they had pulled up over by the home plate.
Yeah. I remember watching Jacob play. That's funny. That triggered a memory.
Yeah. No, the weird part was growing up in Southern Arizona. I only knew playing here. Like I never came here other than to play sport,
right?
Until I came to Easter, and I've never left. So,
yeah, awesome. I like those types of stories as far as how you started doing what you're doing, and it's all you saw an ad and led to and now here you are.
Well, and the crazy part is people. Yeah, this is a highlight, guys. This is not at the top of the list. And people ask me all the time how they get into radio, and they expect my story to be, oh, I went to this journalist school, I went to this broadcasting school, I graduated at the top of my class, and then I got. No, it's not. Neither of you got into this field on purpose either,
right? Life is all about just stumbling into it. That's all it is. You just figure it out as you go, and it hopefully works out.
Well, this is going to be a dumb analogy, but it's why I love this movie so much. Monsters University. They're going to school to become scarce. They end up not being scarce, and then they work their way up the system.
Well, you have to
that's the life. That's how people's stories usually are.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's how successful stories start.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're hyper focused on being whatever you want to be, then you realize it's not all wrapped up. It's not what do you expect it? Right. I mean, and so either you go and do it and you're not happy with it, and you get burnt out quick, or you make a pivot and go, oh, I'm going to try something different.
I think one of the biggest keys to success is recognizing opportunity,
right?
And being willing to change plans, right? Yeah. Because if you're so hyper focused and so one-minded, this is what I'm doing, you might be missing out on a lot of different.
Well, and then you can get burnt out that way too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'm sure growing up you were told the same thing. Find something that doesn't feel like work. Find something you enjoy doing. You'll never work a day in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what that would be my advice. Yeah, people. I mean, and nowadays it's even harder to convince people coming out of college or graduating high school that sometimes you're not going to find that job right away. That's your first job is not always your dream job. I mean,
more often than not.
Right. You got to, and like I said, I did sports for free for 2 years before it was time for me to step up and do that. So you've got to do some of those things. And, and that's, I think I started the story to get sidetracked because I saw a squirrel, but, kids nowadays are going to broadcast schools and expecting to start out with the top spot.
Oh, an D-backs game.
Right. Yeah. And it's just not, I mean, it's just not the case. You've got to come and so you're down in a small market doing 1A. And I bet Nick Piacoro, who writes for the Arizona Republic. He's the beat writer now for the Diamondbacks, which is a great gig. He and I met sitting next to each other in the press box at Apache Junction High School. I was broadcasting Pima Valley Union State Championship football game, and he was covering it for the Republic. So, I mean,
that's cool.
It's that's where you've got to do it.
Put in the time, and you've got to do the dirty job sometimes too until you get the one you like. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the organization that you're involved with now.
Oh, the Southern Arizona Sports Tourism Film Authority. That is an interesting story as well. I mean, was an accident as well. So I had seen that there was this new Southern Arizona. At the time, I thought it was just Sports Authority that was going through the legislature. It was going to be created, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I wonder how that's going to affect us."
Mm-hmm.
So I dug through and found a name, called it, and said, the person answered. And I told them who I was. And I said, I see this, I'm intrigued. And they said, well, we're not formed yet. It's still going through, but when it's officially signed and we're an organization, we'll talk. Okay. Well, come to find out, the guy I talked to is named Blake Eager, who is the current executive director, played baseball at Eastern Arizona College. And I knew him when he was in college. He played for Eastern. Didn't realize that who I was talking to. Anyway, so he
knew who you were.
So he knew who I was. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize who he was.
Yeah.
So we talked, and I said, well, that's cool. I like it, So the idea is it's all the southern counties in the state together to help promote sports, tourism, and film. And we've added a fourth one in workforce development, since that is a big topic around the whole state. But it's to give Southern Arizona a unified voice at the state level and at the federal level. But then, long story short, I get a certified letter in the mail from the Speaker of the House that said, I've appointed you as the Graham County board member to the new Sports Authority. I was like,
did he talk to you about
that got real fast. And so, I had told Blake that if they needed help in Graham County, just to let me know, I'd get him in touch with the right people.
You realize that involved in it?
I did not know that it's in a 5-year appointment too.
Wow.
So, I now knee deep in that. We meet once a month, to talk about, ways that there's 13 board members. It's Graham, Greenlee, Cochise, Pinal, Pima, Santa Cruz, and the 3 tribal nations that are in there. So there's 13 board members, and we meet on a monthly basis to talk about what it's morphed into.
So you represent Graham?
I represent Graham. Yeah, Vance Bryce is also on the board, but he is on the tourism side.
Gotcha.
He is actually the tourism chair of the board.
Okay.
Just happens that we're both in Grand County.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's kind of morphed into, I don't think there was, when it first started, it was kind of like, yeah, this is a great idea. But then as we met as a board and it was cool to be there from the ground level, making on a state level authority. We made rules and bylaws and all from, it was zero. We decided the direction the organization was going to go. And so from youth sports to tourism. And so what we've really turned into is kind of like an incubator to get the right people in the right room. So, like a meeting earlier today was about economic development, and, hey, we're struggling finding these people, in this field. How can we help? So then we, go to the community colleges and go, hey, have you ever thought about having this, helping out this field, just getting them in the same room.
Putting some emphasis on
seeing if that can grow into a program or a certificate program, to help in that field. So it's been interesting. I mean, there's a lot more to it than I even thought. I mean, I wouldn't say it's time consuming because we only meet once a month, but, there's, ideas thrown around and what if we did this and what if we did that? And so it's been interesting. I met some really interesting people through it. And, we started a grant program, that kicks off July 1st. I don't know when you'll be seeing this episode, but, the grant program kicks off July 1st. If it's Southern Arizona Sports Tourism Film Authority, SAFSA.org. I should know that. But it's up to $5,000 for nonprofits in any of those pillars: sports, tourism, film, and workforce development. So to help with a little incubator money. So
that's awesome.
Cool. One thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, it's been a while since we've spoken, Lee is the guy that
Oh, I don't know about.
first brought up to me or first invited me to go play disc golf.
Oh yeah,
If you're friends with Lee on Facebook, you know this guy is a
That's-
fanatic.
That's Lee's thing.
that is, and that's a strange story. You guys are bringing up all the weird stories in my life.
Well, listen,
Um,
I kind of have to apologize because when I first heard about disc golf,
You're like, whatever.
it's from The Office, and it's from Andy Bernard. And I'm like, what a dork, you know? And then I like, there's a big community of people that disc golf here, and my brother finally, at least been trying to get me to go out forever. My brother finally got me to go out. Time of my life. It was so much fun.
And much harder than you thought it would.
Way harder than I thought it was going to.
So I found it by accident, like everything else I have in my life, apparently. I'm sensing a theme as I'm telling these stories. Hadn't even never dawned on me till now. But during COVID, when there was really nothing else to do, and I had seen something about a disc golf club, or I don't remember where even I saw it, but I went out there, and Matt Hart from Safford was the guy I met, and I don't say it. I coached Matt in Little League when I first moved to town here. So I knew Matt, and I was talking, didn't have any discs. And he said, here's 3 discs. Come play with us today. And like you said, I had a blast.
Yeah.
I think I shot like 42 over bar. Like it was
Me on the regular golf.
yeah, it was the worst round of it I've ever played. But then there's enough athleticism there that makes you feel like an athlete again. And there's some competitiveness.
Yeah.
And so I came back, and I came back, and I came back, and I came back, and I was like, I could do this. Now I own like 120 discs, which is way too many. If you're looking to get into disc golf, don't do that. Ask me for some discs. But in the 2.5 years I've been playing, so when I first met the club, there was 5 or 6 regular members that were trying to form a club and played on a regular basis. And since then, we've gone full nonprofit status. We're a 501c3 club. We have a board of directors, which I'm the vice president of.
Who's the president? I'm just curious.
Todd Draper is the president. Seth Daly is our treasurer. And Kyle Zale is our secretary. And we have hosted a tournament out at the fair. Our course is at the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
We have a course at the fairgrounds, which Matt Hart built when he got home from college, because he learned the game when he was in college in the Midwest, where it was a big sport. Then there was nothing here, so he hand built 9 baskets at the fairgrounds to play. We now have 18 holes out there. The back 9 are bought baskets. The front 9 are still the original, as we call them, the OG baskets. And since then, we've hosted a tournament there. We attracted 65 players from all over Arizona and western New Mexico. We added 9 more holes to the course and played 54 holes that day. We did 2 rounds of 27, which was dumb. But since then, we got a grant from the United Way of Graham and Greenlee County under our 501c status, bought 18 new baskets. And as of the airing of this, we have 18 baskets inside Discovery Park.
Yeah.
So there is a second course inside, down by the barn. Is that what they call it? Down there. So down, and it weaves its way back towards
Which is
the
super
road.
pretty back there, right?
Yeah, it's a completely different course than the one is at the fairgrounds, which is wide open. But when it's windy, it's super hard. And a lot more trees and shrubs, but lots of vegetation there.
Yeah, last time we talked, you guys it was like just in the
yeah. And so that is
So is that open and available for people?
yeah. So it's open and available whenever the gates are open at Discovery Park. Anybody can go in there, but you can always walk in from the side, the Discovery Park side. There's a gate open that gets you to the walking track.
Right.
So in the sport of disc golf, kind of the go-to app is called UDisc.
Okay.
The letter U and then disc with a C, DISC. And it has the course on it, has a course map. So you are able to find the holes.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And then big thanks to Eastern Arizona College for working with us and getting that done.
That seems like quite a bit of growth in a pretty short amount of time.
It has exploded.
Yeah.
We have 42 paid members in our club now.
Wow.
And every week we play Saturday. Right now we play Thursday nights at 5:30 and Saturdays at 6:30 a.m. In our league.
Does it get kind of congested?
No, during Little League and soccer season,
Yeah.
the course is a little congested, but we figure out how to play around it. But with 18 holes, we're able to spread out enough to start at shotgun started at different holes.
What's the like etiquette as far as like group of people playing in the same group?
So when we play in league for max of 4 on the card, there's a lot of similarities of the etiquette and rules as it is from ball golf to disc golf. It's just
Hey! Don't call it ball golf. It's just golf. Okay, it's golf.
you were awfully defensive today.
I am a golfer, and I will not stand for a ball golfer.
Yeah, you were a ball. But it's just like clubs. There's discs that are made for different things. There's drivers, there's mid-range, there's fairways, there's putters, all cut different, all different weights.
So if Trey was playing disc golf, my brother Trey, if he was playing disc golf, he would just beat the putter disc, because that's all he uses on the golf course.
That's funny. So we do have guys. So everything is measured in feet instead of yards in disc golf, and we do have guys that can throw putters on on our fairgrounds holes. It's more of a beginner. It's technical, but
Is it like a heavier disc?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, heavier disc. So, yeah, for sure.
How long does it take? Like 18 holes?
Hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about a 3-mile walk, which is a part that I've come to enjoy.
If I show up with my golf cart, are people going to make fun? I'm just kidding.
So there is pull carts, but yeah, no motorized carts.
Yeah.
So
I've been golfing or walking in the mornings lately, playing golf. The walking part, it's nice. Honestly,
it's because you're getting older.
I know. Well, honestly, what it is the golf course opens at, I guess, 5:30 now, and so me and my buddy Levi and sometimes Trey will go. But if we get out there earlier before the clubhouse is open and we have passes and some, they're cool. If we just
you just start.
We just start recording when else is there. We'll walk the front 9 and then hop in a cart and finish the back 9, and we're usually done by
the walk is
30.
Yeah, the walk. I've enjoyed it. I mean, and when we play at 6:00 on a Saturday morning, even this time of year, it's gorgeous there.
Yeah,
cool.
Oh yeah, that's the best part when it's being out when the sun's just getting.
So yeah, we from what started 2.5 years ago as a group of 5 or 6 is up to 42.
That's insane. Yes, yeah,
and we've got 5 or 6 juniors, so that would be 18 and under playing. Most of them are kids of current players, but it's cool to see them. We've got one family that plays. There's 4 of them that come and play every time that we play. So it's fun to see the growth of it. It's happening very quickly.
How many people are on the Facebook group? Because I bet
there's hundreds on the Facebook. Yeah. So and we've got some. I would say in southeastern Arizona that Gila Valley Disc Golf is probably the most active group.
Yeah.
A disc golf group, and so we've actually played a day in Benson. They've got a course in Benson. We took a trip to Benson and played that as a league day. We've done the same in Globe. Globe's got a course. All of them are members of our club as well. And Silver City has most recently reached out and wanted to. And it's,
are any of them paid courses, or is it all just
that's part of disc golf is it's free. I mean, if somebody gives you discs, you have nothing in it. And so it's the only thing that costs is if you're playing a sanctioned tournament, just like,
that is not a similarity of real golf.
That is expensive.
Golf isn't expensive.
Well, when you buy 120 discs, it's expensive. Yeah. My wife we were cleaning out the garage, and she's like stacking and stacking and stacking. I'm like, where did those come from? Wow.
That's hilarious.
Anyways.
I got to get out again. Like I said, it was a time of my life.
So, but if anybody's watching, interested in disc golf here on Facebook, Gila Valley Disc Golf, we have a website, Gila Valley Disc Golf Club.com. So, it's the Facebook page is where we do most of our posts and updates of when and where we're going to be playing in.
Cool.
We are hosting a tournament July 27th, the Saturday. It's a quasi tournament. It's called an MVP Challenge, and MVP is a manufacturer of discs, and you buy in to play. It's $46 to play. You get 3 new discs from the manufacturer that have not been released yet. They're new releases. but you can only use those 3 discs during the round. So
But you get to keep.
then you get to keep them.
How much do discs usually cost?
$25 a piece. So you're in it for much cheaper.
Yeah.
So that is this 27th. We've got 14 people signed up for it already. And that'll be at 8:00 on the 27th out at the fairgrounds. And it's a fundraiser for the club. So we're able to get them the packs for much cheaper. And then they give you a suggested price to play the tournament.
This is a stupid question, but I never played disc golf. So you have the basket.
Mm-hmm.
Do you just have to hit the basket, or is it supposed to stay?
It has to land in the cage. They've changed the rules recently. It used to be it has to be inside the cage, but sometimes they get stuck on the outside of the cage. As long as it is supported by the cage,
and it's not on the ground.
And you are in the basket.
That's a good rule change.
Have you ever had a hole in one?
So interesting question. One that didn't count. So in disc golf, because holes aren't as long, they try to make them more technical by doing things called mandatories, mandos for short. So you have to go around. So I aced a hole but missed the mando.
Gotcha.
So it was a par.
Gotcha.
On my scorebook, it was a par. So.
Dang.
How close was it to missing the?
So there was a tree. They have to go left around, and it went to the right. So the width of the tree jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there a penalty involved with that? Like,
that's a stroke. So there's usually either a drop zone that you go to +1 and shoot from there, or you have to shoot from the edge of the mando +1. Gotcha. It just depends on the course rules. So yeah.
All right, fine. I'll try it sometime. Yeah, I'm sure
it will humble you the first time you play.
Oh, I'm really terrible at it. I can't throw a freaking frisbee. That saved my life. So before we finish up, I kind of want to get your.
Hold on, we got one more thing to talk about.
Oh, okay, well, go. Yeah,
what are we talking about now?
Well, before we started, you brought up.
Oh yeah,
that you started another hobby.
Wait, let me guess. You just kind of fell into that one too. Yeah.
So actually this one was more studied. So, for probably the last 5 or 6 years, I've been raising solitary bees, which are not honeybees. They don't produce any honey. All they do is, make your garden produce much more. So
you're like an extreme gardener.
No, I wouldn't say extreme gardener, but,
hey, anyone that's learning how to raise bees so their squash is bigger than.
Well, it's just more bountiful.
Okay.
So the solitary bees visit 1,000 times more plants a day than a honeybee does.
Because the honeybees are busy making.
Yes, because once they get back to the hive, they have to make honey. These do not, so they just pollinate. So some people have probably seen during the summer their leaves have circles cut out of them in their trees and rose bushes and other plants in the garden. Those are called leafcutter bees. Those are what I raise, so my neighbors probably hate me. But they don't bite, they don't sting, they can't. They don't have any ability. But they do, when they lay their eggs for cocoons, they wrap them in little pieces of leaf.
Oh, wow.
And so sometimes they've used our rose bushes before. There's oleander bushes along our back alley that they use, and they just take a little piece and use that and lay their egg for their cocoon. So, but they pollinate. They're super pollinators. So
like, do you have like a box that they live in?
Yeah, it's a little house, and it's got, or if you have a block of wood, you drill holes in, and that's what they'll crawl in there and do that. And then when they cap it, when they're done with that hole, they cap it with a leaf too. So, when they're, and then some people over the winter will take them out and put them and secure them. I just let mine just live out there, and they happen to though. So since we get so hot, and their bodies don't warm up until it's 75 plus consistently. And so that happens so early in Arizona that my first flight of them are already done. So in another 3 weeks, those will probably be hatching, and I'll have another.
Gotcha.
So it's interesting. It's really it's not a hands-on hobby. They kind of just do their own thing. I mean, you plant the garden, and then they just I don't have to feed them or water them, or
They're just going to take care of them.
they take care.
It's not a colony.
No, they don't. They're all solitary. They just do it. They're on their own. They don't ever.
What do you have?
This year there was probably 200.
What do you just buy them online?
You can join in. That's a great question. No, I do not. How do you remember their name? So when they're born, I take a little piece of confetti and put it on their back. No, I'm just kidding. And so no, and then there's several different places that mass raise them, and then they'll sell some of their stuff off. So, but yeah, they come in a little FedEx container and away they go.
So you just order a new batch every year?
This year I didn't have to because I had enough left. Yes,
it's been proliferate. Yeah.
Well, whatever works.
Yeah, that sounds right. We'll go with that one. That is really cool. And how long have you been doing that for? A couple of years now?
Yeah, 5 or 6 years. Just
and
because
you've noticed a big change in your garden. Wow.
100%.
It's interesting.
Like almost every bloom will produce a fruit now. No, it's last year we couldn't keep up with chilies and tomatoes.
Really?
We couldn't keep up with them. We gave tons away.
That's awesome.
Lots of salsa at Lee's house.
That we do make salsa.
You trying to do the salsa fest?
My wife and her sister were in the salsa fest last year.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, so the question I want to get your opinion on upcoming. Like you mentioned, they just came out with the football schedules for what are your preseason thoughts on some of the local teams?
I feel like. That's a good question. I have not researched any of this year, so I don't know any additions, subtractions from this year. But just from last year's thoughts, other teams have graduated their studs. Mm-hmm. So like the teams that were in the 3A state championship last year, Paradise Honors and Sabino, both graduated their quarterbacks who were stir the drink type of guys. They were good. They were problems, Gage Baker threw for 9,000 yards and 78 touchdowns or something like that for Paradise Honors. I mean, the state championship, 3A state championship game last year was like 62-55.
Holy cow.
Between Sabino and Paradise Honors. Both those teams on Thatcher's schedule this year. So Thatcher starts with Paradise Honors. So I think Thatcher's schedule has Valley Christian, Yumi Catholic, Paradise Honors, Sabino's in their league, but so they're going to they've got a tough schedule, but Thatcher is always going to be big and strong, so that's always going to keep them in ball games. If their offense can hang on to the football this year, they're going to be in a lot more ball games. They last year just couldn't score. I mean, their defense was stuffed. Their offense just struggled when they got in the red zone last year. So
Thatcher's quarterback returning, is he going to be a junior?
No, he'll be a senior.
Is it Jones?
Yeah, Jones.
Okay.
If that's who they go with this year.
That's who it was last year.
Yeah, he'll be back. And he was rated in the top, he was by the Republic put him in the top 200 players in the state.
Wow.
Athlete. I'm not in a position just as a player. So he's going to be a leader this year for them.
And that's not the head coach. That's the head coach's nephew, or is it his son? I think I don't know. It's one of the two.
Both of their dads coach.
They both coach.
So
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
One is, I should know.
But I should know too. But I think it is not the head coach's son. It is Russ's son.
I think.
Now that I'm thinking about it. So Safford graduated a ton of speed. They're going to have, from what I've heard, they're going to have some new look offense. They're going to try some different things. I don't know. They graduated their quarterback. They graduated their leading rusher. They graduated their leading receiver. So big question marks there.
Have to step up and
there's going to be some. They're going to have to find somebody. Morency graduated everybody as well and got a new coach. Young head coach, first head coaching job. Frankie Gonzalez, I believe is his last name. Only graduated about 4 or 5 years ago. So he's been on the last two staffs. So now he's getting a shot at it. So they're going to have to. I have no idea. They were in the 7-on-7 tournament up in Phoenix this week. I did not see any results. So, but they graduated a quarterback, an All-American running back. They've got some work to do. Pima is a lot like Thatcher. They've got some big, strong kids. So it really, if they can find a guy that can hang on to the football and go forward, they're going to be fine. I don't know that there's going to be a 2A is going to Scottsdale Christian. I think they graduated a bunch of people. Which Supima played last year, so it's at this point. There's been seasons where I could have told you exactly how the season's going to go.
Well, and I'm sure.
But this year, this year, I just think it's that cyclical time where that class has graduated. Now it's that time for the young guys that are going to be coming up to varsity for the first time all across the valley. That senior class across the valley this year was really good. Or last year. And so it's going to see, and everybody seems to have somebody that steps up. I just don't know who it's going to be yet.
Right.
It's going to be the three. I know that the 3A South is going to be rough for Morenci, Safford, and Thatcher. That's a tough conference with Sabino and Twitch Ridge in it. That's a tough region. I think in their region, Pima is going to be just fine. They went undefeated in their region last year too. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that again this year. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be good. It's last year's schedules are exactly flipped or this year's schedules are exactly flipped home and away. So it's the same opponents, just home and away. So,
gotcha.
But it's so.
What did Thatcher go last year? Do you remember? I have no idea.
I wanted to. Oh, go ahead.
No, you're right.
I wanted to get your take on the whole Fort Thomas.
That was interesting. I mean, it was weird. I was on vacation in Detroit waiting out
explain
a rain delay in Detroit when I found out about that. But so the school board there voted to not renew any of the coaching contracts, which is always a possibility. I mean, coaching contracts are always year to year at every school in the state of Arizona. All contracts are teaching contracts, everything. They can vote to. I just have never seen that happen. So then they went through a process and got they didn't renew any of them. They didn't
from middle school to
from middle school all the way up to high school. They didn't renew any of them. But then so they opened all the positions and took applications. Had a hiring committee, went back through it. Then when they came back to the school board, when the staff came back to the school board, all of the former coaches were all at the top of the list. Like that was their recommendation to go back. So any of them that wanted to come back, came back, and they were all. So football is the only Fort Thomas football is the only sport that's going to have a new coach. But I believe he was going to be their recommendation anyways.
Yeah.
So that's not new either. So
all of the coaches all of the coaches got their same coaching job except for one.
Well, but that football was already open anyways. And Evan Stringfellow was going to be the recommendation anyways.
Okay.
It just had to be. It was all roundabout ways.
That's
so
weird.
It was an interesting. I mean, as a school board, they can do that. I mean, that's
right.
It's well within their rights to do that. It's
just weird because if it's year to year anyway, because it makes me think, well, maybe they wanted to change the contract, but if it's a year to year contract anyway.
So it was just weird. I don't know. I mean, it was weird. I mean, in the end, the coaches that wanted to coach are still coaching. So
that's good.
It was just weird. It took them a couple of months to go through that process, but it's back to the same coach, except for Evan Streetfeld is now the football coach. So,
gotcha.
I just if I was, I don't know if they have any dynasty coaches there right now or not, but imagine if you were and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I reapply for your job, which I don't know if that's really what happened, but
I mean, ultimately that's ended up what happened. I mean, they wanted to open it to see, I mean, sometimes, I mean, you open it to see who all would apply. I mean, you may find somebody else that wants to come in, but that doesn't sound like that was what happened.
Do you have any games circled on your calendar that you're like, I'm looking forward to this one?
Rematches are always, I mean, especially
obviously you're always
playoff.
Thatcher
Safford, rematches from last year's playoffs. Pima and Scottsdale Christian play again in the regular season. Thatcher Valley Christian play in the regular season. So those two are always good. The Safford Pima game has been a good game the last couple of years. Yeah. So there's the one that just for outside, not for just for storylines. Safford goes to Blue Ridge this year, and the head coach at Blue Ridge is former Safford coach Eric Halmerson. So he was the head coach in 18 and 19 at Safford. So he'd been at Wilcox the last couple of years, and so that just outside because I know him and the parties involved. So that'll be a fun one just for the storyline of it. That's one
of my favorite things about sports is all of the storylines, all the things behind the.
Well, and the crazy part is what I learned years ago so I'm a big fan of that too, but it's part of my job to hype that.
Yeah. And which you do a great job of as well.
At the JUCO level, so I would always try to ask the head football coach at Eastern, well, I did this, that, and he's all, none of these kids know that. They're all new.
Yeah.
They're just
they're from the East Coast.
I was like, oh.
And it's not even like they grew up being fans.
No, they're not from So it's different than when you're at a big Division I school and you grew up a fan of it and there's rivalries. And so I'm like, yeah, these guys, this is the first time, you tell the player of the game, this is the first time Easterns beat this team since, whatever. Oh.
Were you? Yeah. Were you pretty bummed when they got rid of the football at JUCO?
I mean, I understood it, but yeah, I think everybody involved in football was. I mean,
yeah,
I
definitely.
But I understand why they did it. I still think that there was a chance to be like an Arizona All-Star team for them if they could, but the travel was going to be Texas, New Mexico,
which is what killed it,
and Arizona Western. So literally, you have Yuma, Roswell, West Texas, snow.
Yeah.
So
financially, it didn't make sense.
It didn't.
Again,
but I completely I'm glad that the final game that Eastern played was in a big time bowl game in Mississippi, though. Just for the program's history, it was, that's a cool ending to it. Mm-hmm. That they were at a bowl game in it, which is, I think, was the matchup was the second to the national championship that year. So it was like the third, fourth place game. So it was a good, and the quarterback that day that Eastern played for Jones Community College was one Stetson Bennett, who then went to Georgia and won a national championship. Yeah. So
that's really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He had 113 yards passing, threw a touchdown, and had a pick against us that day. So
he was in college forever.
Yeah. So they beat Eastern 21-7.
Okay. Huh. That's interesting. That was something I was going to ask you. When you think of big names that went on to the next level, is there anyone that stands out that, you think of as far as remembering calling,
No, there were some guys that had really good collegiate careers that were around a year or two in the NFL, but never really.
Well, and in any sport, though, as far as Thatcher, Stafford, EA. The one that I feel is Mike James.
Yeah, Mike James at the college is probably the best JUCO to now story. So when I posted about, he just is now the EuroLeague's all-time leading scorer, and was named the league MVP this year. He's the best player in the EuroLeague. I mean, awesome. And he started at Eastern Arizona College, and my post was from EAC to MVP, which is got to be the name of his book when he writes it. So, but yeah, he was. You knew there's been guys that you watched and were like, yep, right. He was that guy at Eastern.
Right.
I mean, he averaged like 28.5 points a game.
Out from everybody.
Yeah. But was raw. You knew that he needed to play against better players to get to where he's at now. Like, he had always been the best player.
Yeah.
And was here too. But then went to Lamar and then didn't get drafted, but had some workouts, even came back and worked out with the Suns, played with them in the summer league. Then went overseas, and it just his career just took off over there. He's
still pretty young, right? How old is he?
I don't remember how old Mike is. I mean, he played here in 08, 09. So he's towards, I would say he's had a long career. He's had a great career. So, and he's Yeah, he's been doing it a long time. So, yeah, he's probably the best. He's the best player I've seen in person in any sport. I mean, recency bias too, because he's also still one of the best.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's played. So, there was some football guys that should have. I've seen some great football players that just never panned out.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember names off the top of my head, but Eastern had a transfer from Clemson University who ran like a 4.25, just never panned out.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was guys that should have, but that never did. I mean, it was one of those things where, you know, the reason the guys are blue chip guys is because they have the ability and the work ethic.
Right.
And then at the JUCO level, it was mostly they all had the athletic ability. Just
weren't putting in the effort.
They just didn't know how or what.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha. Going back to the small schools and Thatcher and Pima and Safford, it seems like Pima's growing so much.
So fast.
They've got to be getting close to coming into 3A. Right?
I don't know what their official number is, but that's got to be soon.
Got to be coming.
It's got to be coming soon, and then we'll have 3A schools in the Gila Valley. That's just crazy if you to think about.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so they're growing so fast out there. Building a new school right now. They're growing so fast, and seems to be the growth epicenter right now. I mean, you guys might know that better than I, but it seems like out there is the growth epicenter.
Absolutely. Well, we were at that. I can't remember the organization, that event we did when Wansis Commodity came.
Oh yeah, just the other day.
Yeah, the GE. What do they call that organization?
Economic
Partnership. Yeah. So we were at that, and they were talking about the growth and, you know, what's going on in the different towns and all that. And they mentioned they had a flyer, and on that flyer it says in 10 years they expect this area to grow or to increase in size what Thatcher's current population is.
I believe it.
In just 10 years. And then 10 years from that, they expect it to increase in size Safford and Pima's current population, what it is now. So in 20 years, this area, they're projecting is going to double in size, which
I believe
is crazy. So do I. Yeah.
I mean, it's the growth in my lifetime here. I've been here since 1999 has been huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, and some of that I didn't even pay attention to until much later than that. I mean, it just wasn't on my radar. But then as you get older and get into more things, you start paying attention to that.
Yeah.
And the growth is huge. And it's probably the infrastructure has got to keep up. I mean, that's going to be the hindrance of that being able to happen is infrastructure. So
that, and people get in the way of it. Some people don't like growth, and they're going to do everything they can.
It's the same problem every town that's on the verge of growth is in America. Every town in America is we've never done it that way before because we've always done it this way versus hey, this is how we need to do it now. And it's usually an age related thing. I mean, it's usually people that have lived one way their entire life and don't want to change because there's going to be more people versus most likely the younger generation that goes, we need to do something different.
I was thinking about those projections, that projection growth, and I started thinking about the numbers of it. So I think the Gila Valley, you know, I think our county is what, 40 or 50,000?
I would say low, like 42 something.
Yeah. So if that doubles in 20 years, that's this is just putting it into perspective for me. That's close to what the size of Las Cruces is, and Las Cruces is a much bigger area, you know, much bigger than here. That's
how old will you be in 20 years?
In 20 years, I will be turning 54.
Perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know that's not that long away. I mean, time flies, right? And I mean, yeah, it's just growing so much. It'll be interesting to see what
happens. Obviously, now housing is a huge issue here. I mean, you guys are in that field. I mean, I'm sure you see more frustrations in that field now than anything with the lack of availability. But if housing comes, the people will come.
Right.
I mean, that's what will drive it. And I think there's some things in motion around the area that will drive that. But
so does that, as far as your career, does that intrigue you? I mean, do you like calling small schools? Because eventually they're not going to be small schools.
No, and I don't really have any. I mean,
You just like sports.
I want good games.
Yeah.
Like I don't want a situation where our because of the growth we get stuck somewhere that we can't compete.
Yeah.
That will be, I mean, this area's competed, as we talked earlier, this area's competed in every sport forever.
Yeah.
Since the dawn of sports.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want it to get to an area where one of the schools or all of the schools end up student big, but athletics.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so, but I don't really, it wouldn't really bother me going, at this point in my career, I really like going to new schools.
Mm-hmm.
I've called tons of games from tons of different places, but
I like what you do with your collection of hats.
yeah, I try to collect a hat from every school I broadcasted from. If I would have started that when I first started,
Uh-huh.
I mean, I already don't have enough room for them all, but I don't know how many schools I've broadcasted from. Probably every school in southeastern Arizona.
Yeah.
And western New Mexico. It's southwestern New
You have to
Mexico.
get a storage unit for all of your hats and discs.
Oh, yes, you're probably right.
Well, cool. Is there anything that you want to plug, or anything coming
No,
up?
our season. So if you want to follow me on social media, you will be watching this whatever this comes out. This recording is
This is live. People are watching.
No, it's not.
We'll post it next week.
So this will be coming out when you're watching this week. It'll be a week since I said this. My football schedules will be coming out. Our football broadcast schedule will be coming out in the next 3 weeks, probably. We will post it first on my social medias. That's Overtime with Lee Patterson on Facebook, Radio Guy AZ99 on Twitter are the places that I post the most.
Wait. You mean X?
Oh,
Don't
sorry.
really know now.
X. On MySpace, I am. But those are the places. So, and then that's pretty much where I update most of my sports related stuff, articles, posts, updates, schedules. And then, yeah, come and try disc golf, both of you.
I'll have to.
I'll be there.
You'll have to report back on disc golf.
We'll go play a couple rounds and have you back on, and you can critique us.
But no, thanks for having me on, guys.
Great conversation. Had a great time.
I mean, I talk for a living, so this is.
I knew it was going to be
right
good.
up my alley.
As soon as we decided to do this podcast, I started thinking about all the names, and you were definitely at the top of the list. And so I think you'll be episode 9. So we're
awesome.
Been looking forward to having you on. Awesome conversation. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it, guys.
So great. So thanks, Lee.
Thanks.
Gucci.
Gucci.
Like Gucci.